Welcome back to the channel, guys. The last video you saw us get the 1989 CRX engine running. We actually got this thing out on the road and test drove it. One thing I noticed, the brakes were severely rusted over and I was having a hard time stopping. So that's going to be our next item on the to-do list. We're going to do a little work on the brakes. We're really not going to replace the brakes. I'm going to give them a once over to make sure that the pads are good, the rotors are good, but the rotors are really rusted over, so we're going to pull those off and see what we can do with them. Now for the rear, that's another story. We're actually going to pull the trailing arms off of the rear, and we're going to use those trailing arms on my 88 CRX. Now the reason why is because my 88 CRX actually has DA Integra rear trailing arms, and if you look closely you can see that the track width of the wheel in the rear is out about a ½ inch further than the front. So by using the trailing arms that are on this 89 CRX, which are most likely 90 to 91 CRX SI rear trailing arms, we will correct the track width problem on my 88. So you might be wondering what we're going to do with the 89 CRX. So on the 89, we're going to utilize the stock 88 trailing arms that I pulled off of this car months and months ago. Those will actually have drum brakes on them. So to get the disc calipers to bolt to them, we're going to utilize these Scarebird disc brake conversion brackets. I've never used these before, so you're going to be seeing me put these on for the first time. I hope they line up and everything works perfectly. We'll find out. It got late on me last night, so here I am the next morning. Last night we were able to get the brakes pulled off of the front. I've left the brake lines hooked up. I'm going to try to clean these up just with a wire wheel and then sand them down and repaint them. I'm going to try to do it on the car. So today's project is to pull off the rear trailing arms on this car, and then I'm going to pull these discs off and see about having them resurfaced. I've got all these lug nuts off and they've got some rust starting to form on them, I'm gonna dump them in this bucket. I'm gonna try to use this Evapo Rust to try to see how much of that rust I can break up off of those and see how well they'll clean up. I'm gonna cover the top of this bucket up with some plastic to keep this stuff from evaporating. This stuff has to sit overnight, so this should help. Now that we've got these discs off, I'm gonna throw them in a box here and take them to the parts store and see if they can resurface these things. We're back here at the garage. I made a trip to O'Reilly Auto Parts and AutoZone, and it turns out nobody can resurface drilled rotors. I made a few calls to local shops. They can't do it, so it looks like my only option at this point is to buy some OE replacement rotors. I'll probably get with the OE because I can probably get them faster and they'll be more affordable, and there's really no performance benefit on this car for going drilled and slotted like what was on here before. So it looks like that's the route we're gonna have to take here. Here are the rear trailing arms off of my 88. You can see that they're drum trailing arms. So what we're gonna do is use the Scarebird brackets on here and get those swapped onto the 89. Although I've still got to swap out the rear trailing arm bushing, I want to go ahead and pull this drum off of here and see what I can do about those Scarebird brackets and see how they bolt up. Alright, got the drum brake off. Here's the bracket. See how it goes on here. Looks like it lines up just like that. Brackets are back here for the caliper to bolt onto the back, I would assume. I don't think it can go on any other way. Yeah, so it's going to be how it has to go. It's like this right here. Then you would put the hub back on. And after you have the hub on, all the way, put your rotor on, and then your caliper would actually bolt to this bracket back here, and you'd have your disc brakes. So before I put all this together, I'm going to have to place this bushing here, this torn. I'm also going to clean these up a little bit. Creative here. Got some metal bars that are going to hold this thing flat, hopefully. On the bottom side I've got a brake drum. It's going to hold it up against the trailing arm. And I'm going to try to tighten this down and push this bushing. Try it from the other side. Now that these trailing arms have had a chance to dry, we're going to go ahead and reinstall them. Alright, for this mating surface here, I follow the mechanic or mechanic, however he pronounces it, and he has suggested this CRC heavy duty corrosion inhibitor to help keep this rust from progressing any further. He lives up in Chicago, and he swears by this stuff. He did a 1-year study on it, set it outside, and there was absolutely no rust had formed when you had sprayed this on. So I'm going to give this a coating on here to help slow this rust down. Alright, here's our Scarebird bracket here. Just line these holes up and get this thing bolted on. Well, until we get our new rotors, I'm going to go ahead and put this old one back on just to see how the bracket lines up. Okay, it actually looks like this bracket is going to need a spacer. If you look closely, I know it's dark in here. You may or may not be able to see. There's actually a gap between the caliper and the bracket. So if I were to tighten this down, it's going to tweak this caliper and put it in a bind. So I'm gonna have to find some washers to space this bracket out. Well guys, I'm at a stopping point. It turns out I do not have the washers I need to space out this bracket to get it to the right location. So the Scarebird brackets only came with these bolts here. They did not come with any spacers. I did see on the instructions that it mentioned something about spacers, but it wasn't really an instruction manual. It was just a sheet that passively mentioned spacers. It didn't say for what application, but it sure looks like this right here is the application that needs it. So I'm gonna have to run to the hardware store, but it's getting late and the stores are closed. So I'm gonna have to catch you guys in the next video.